All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to WMAC Now with your host, Chuck Stevenson, coming at you with another latest and greatest in the WMMA Scene Report, episode number 46. So this is my weekly show where I go over the latest and greatest in uh, fight results, news, announcements, uh, upcoming fights, you name it, we talk about it if it involves the women's divisions of mixed martial arts. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right down to it, discussing this weekend's past fight results. First off, we're going to Brave CF number 29, strawweight division. Luana Pinheiro defeated Helen Harper via TKO at 3 minutes of the first round. Pinheiro climbed to 7-1. Harper fell to 4-3. Moving along to Bellator 234 in Israel. Going to featherweight division. Second week in a row, Bellator featuring the featherweight ladies. Sinead Kavanagh defeated Olga Rubin via TKO 4 minutes and 37 seconds of the second round. Kavanagh climbed to 6-4. Rubin fell to 6-2. I'm going to eat a little bit of crow here. I picked Rubin last weekend. I said, Kavanagh just isn't that good. Kavanagh surprised me in this one, so I picked wrong. Kavanagh showed an ability to follow and stick to a good game plan and kept putting Rubin into some tight trouble spots with her brawling style. And the more Rubin found herself in those trouble spots, the harder she faded. And then by the second round, Kavanagh was able to get the finish. So congrats to Sinead Kavanagh on proving me wrong. Another featherweight in Bellator proving me wrong. Moving along to LFA number 78. So there was 2 fights scheduled for this card. The flyweight fight between Haley Cowan and Lisa Malden was canceled. Cowan had a bad weight cut, wound up in hospital, had to withdraw from the fight. I believe the day before weigh-ins, so that fight unfortunately was canceled. Now Cowan did announce that she is going to fight at bantamweight from now on after this scare. So it's a shame that it takes fighters, sometimes they have to have a bad result to move up, but in the end, I think this will be a good thing for her. The fight that did remain on the card, Cheyenne Buys versus Rebecca Adney at strawweight. Buys won by unanimous decision. She climbed to 4-1. Adney fell to 0-3. Now, I only watched this fight peripherally because I was out with friends at the time and I just had it on the phone to watch a little bit. The main thing I noticed was Buys' speed compared to Adney. Huge speed advantage. All right, moving along to Excite Fights, Conquest of the Cage. So this was the fight where Cindy Dandois had a fight on the same evening as her daughter. Of course, Dandois' fight was as a pro. She defeated Bethany Christensen via triangle choke submission in the first round. Dandois climbed to 15-5. Christensen fell to 0-2. And then her daughter, Lola Papadopoulos, won her fight as well. So 2 firsts in the same evening. A mother-daughter fought on the same card, and a mother-daughter won on the same fight card. Now, of course, the young girls were fighting as amateurs. But so that's history being made twice in one event. Congratulations to Cindy Dandois and Lola Papadopoulos. Which moves us along to Saturday morning. One championship had 2 strawweight fights. First up, Ritu Phogat defeated Nam Hee Kim via TKO 3 minutes and 37 seconds of the first round. Phogat climbed to 1-0. Kim fell to 0-1. This was pretty much as I expected it to go. Phogat took down Kim, and it was pretty much all over from there. A lot of ground and pound. Eventually got into a mounted crucifix, where she pounded out Kim for the win. Also at strawweight, Bo Meng defeated Laura Ballin via TKO at, this was more like a KO at 39 seconds of the second round. 2 minutes 45 seconds of the first round. Reading the wrong result here. Maine climbed to 4-5. Ballin fell to 11-6. If you can find a clip of the finish, watch it. Maine hit Ballin hard with the right hand, and she went down, crashing to the floor. And then finally, to close out the weekend, UFC Fight Night Sao Paulo. 2 ladies fights. First up at bantamweight, Tracy Cortez defeated Vanessa Milo in her UFC debut. Cortez climbed to 7-1. Milo fell to 10-7. The big story here was that in the first round, they were duking it out on the feet, and it was pretty even, I thought. But then the second round, Cortez listened to her corner. They said, we're not trying to stand with her, so start taking her down. Cortez started taking her down and controlled the grappling throughout the second and third round, earning her a unanimous decision. And then at a 130-pound catch weight, it was scheduled for flyweight, Ariane Lipski defeated Isabella de Padua via unanimous decision. Now, de Padua came in very late notice, like 48-hour notice. Lipski climbed to 12-5. De Padua fell to 5-2. Lipski's first win in the UFC. Honestly, this fight was very sloppy and mostly just forgettable. A lot of mistakes made by both fighters. Like, for example, Lipski dropped de Padua in the first round, immediately followed her to the ground. I thought she should have kept it on the feet. She could have gotten the finish had she done that. And that was the first of many mistakes made by Lipski, and de Padua made a lot of mistakes as well. Okay, so that was this past weekend's fight results. So let's move straight into the news for this week. So first up, UFC has announced 3 women's fights for UFC Fight Night 166 in Raleigh, North Carolina, and that goes down January 25th. First up is it says bantamweight fight between Justine Kish, 6-2, versus Lucia Pudilova, 8-5. I might have this wrong. It could be a flyweight fight. Also, another bantamweight fight. The long-awaited return of Sarah McMahon, who is 11-5, and she will be taking on the Elbow Queen, Lena Landsberg, who is 10-4. And then finally at strawweight, Brianna the Bull Van Buren, 9-2, taking on Hannah Shockwave Cyphers, who currently has a record of 10-3. And then moving along, Bellator Japan, 2 fights announced for December 29th at the Saitama Super Arena. As Bellator goes to Japan for the first time. First up at flyweight is Ilara Joanne, 9-4, taking on Rizen's Kana Watanabe, 8-0-1. And this is going to be contested under the unified rules. And then in the second half of the show is basically going to be a bunch of Rizin fights within the Bellator cage. And that's going to be at super atomweight. Princess B Shimizu, 5-1. She's taking on Andy the Crazian Nguyen, who is 6-8, and that one's going to be under Rizin rules, but within the Bellator cage. So that should be an interesting one. Next up, Bellator announced a fight for December 20th in Hawaii, Honolulu, for their Salute the Troops show. At flyweight, Alejandra Lara, 8-3, taking on Vita Ortega, 5-3. Both of those are the two most recent title challengers for the flyweight title over there, and so they're now facing off. Pro FC 66, December 22nd at Rostov-on-Don. That sounds pretty sure that's Russian. We have Milana Dudaeva, 12-8, taking on Irina Alexeva, 3-0. I'm guessing that's going to be at bantamweight. I couldn't tell by reading the picture on Instagram, because Dudaeva started at bantamweight and then moved down to flyweight, and Irina Alexeva has fought most of her fights at featherweight, so I'm guessing they're going to meet in the middle at bantamweight. Another bantamweight fight at Gorilla FC 21, December 6th in Samara. I believe that is what that said. Zara Dishakova, 6-3, is taking on Yulia Kutsenko, 2-5. And then Korean promotion Road FC announced the final 3 fights for its Road FC 57 XX All Women's card in Seoul, December 14th, at the Grand Hilton in Seoul. First up, a minus 49 kilogram catchweight fight between Yunha Hong, who is 3-5, taking on Emi Tomomatsu, 15-5. In a 30-fight career, this will be only the 3rd time Tomomatsu has stepped foot out of Japan to fight. And then a flyweight kickboxing bout between Ha-Jon Park and Hyunju Oh. Park just got her first win in MMA last month, and this is also the first, I believe it's the first kickboxing fight in Road FC history. So it'll be kickboxing in the cage. And then finally, at atomweight, Yujin Shin versus Haein Kim, both making their pro debut. That's at atomweight. Both girls are still in high school. One's 15, the other is 16. And both of them have teammates that, female teammates that already fight in Road FC. Shin's teammate, Yuna Hong, was just in a fight I previously mentioned. And then Shuto announced the lineup for their super atomweight tournament that starts this weekend. They finally released the fights. So this will be at 110 pounds and take place over the course of 3 or 4 events. First up is Mina Karobi taking on Tanya and Gerer. Next up is Yeji Lee taking on Takumi Umehara. And then finally, Saori Oshima taking on Zafana Ngaya from the Philippines. And that was it for the news. So let's move it along to the UFC rankings update. Let me bring that up here real quick. I believe the only changes made this past week were at flyweight. Just take a second for me to bring this up here. Okay, so the only 2 changes made, well, 3 changes rather, were at flyweight. So Andrea Lee moves down 2 spots from number 7 to number 9. Roxanne Modafferi moves up 1 spot from number 9 to number 8. And Lauren Murphy moves up 1 spot from number 8 to number 7. These rankings, this is why I like to call this segment the fuckery. These moves make 0 sense from a merit standpoint. However, if you think about it from a promotional standpoint, look who is at number 10. Macy Barber. And she is taking on Modafferi, who was at number 9. But now she moves up number 8. So that means that if Barber beats Modafferi, she gets to move up not 1, but 2 spots. Because they'll immediately place her at number 8 if she gets past Modafferi. This is the kind of shenanigans that happens almost every week. And Lauren Murphy was on Twitter talking about this, and she says it's amazing how the day the fight contracts get sent out for these fights, the same day that, boom, the rankings automatically change. And Murphy is kind of ticked because even though she got moved up a spot, she didn't want to get moved up a spot without having to win it. So at the time, KGB Lee was ahead of Lauren Murphy. So Lauren Murphy's, pretty ticked off because rather than getting to earn a move up in the rankings, she actually risks moving down in the rankings if she loses. So she's ticked off, and I would say she has every right to be. So anyway, that's the weekly rankings update, little segment I like to call the fuckery, for a good reason. Alright, so let's move along into a better segment, one I like to call Welcome to the Scene. This is where I like to recognize the newest named subscribers to the channel. So TTV Try Me Boy 15, Wallace Rodriguez, and Anon Ryoka. Welcome to the scene. So if you have your subscription set to public, I get notified anytime a named subscriber subscribes to the channel, and I like to jot it down and recognize them. And I'm going to do this for a good while, up until it gets to the point where there's just too many every week. And right now, not quite that far though. So anyway, that's Welcome to the Scene. So let's talk about this weekend's upcoming fights. Okay, so first up at One Championship, Edge of Greatness is going to be looks like a bantamweight fight between Colby Northcutt, 0-1, taking on Putri Padme, also 0-1. Looking at, they're both coming off a loss in their pro debut. I don't have any stats for Putri Padme on Tapology available. According to Tapology, Northcutt is 26 years old. She stands 5 feet 9 inches tall and has 175 centimeters, and has a reach of 72 inches, 183 centimeters. Okay, I haven't seen Padme fight. She had one fight in One Championship about a year ago and lost to a much smaller fighter, girl who fights at 115 pounds, in Dwi Annie Retno Wulan. Northcutt is being brought in basically for marketing purposes. And I think that's the whole reason this matchup is there. I think they're trying to give Colby Northcutt her first win. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that. I'm going to go with my gut here and say that this is a setup fight for Northcutt. So we're going to go with Colby Northcutt to take the win. Moving along to Cage Fury Fighting Championship, CFFC 80. This is also Friday night. This will be live on UFC Fight Pass. There is one ladies bout at atomweight. Katie Perez making her pro debut, taking on Invicta FC veteran Jillian DeCourcy, coming in at 2-2. Now, let's see. DeCourcy is started off right, got 2 pro wins, and now she's on a 2-fight skid. First to Alicia Zappatella, a little over a year ago, and then to Kelly D'Angelo about 5 months ago. Perez is coming off of 2 amateur wins, both within the last 4 months. So she's riding a bit of high here. Looking at the stats, DeCourcy's the older fighter, 35 years to 26 years. Perez has 1 inch of height on DeCourcy, so 5 foot 3 inches, 160 centimeters to DeCourcy's 5 feet 2 inches, 157 centimeters. So in this one, I just don't know anything about Perez. I don't really follow the amateur scene. I don't really watch it. DeCourcy I have seen, and she has shown some promise. Just hasn't lived up to it in the last couple fights. But I'm going to go with DeCourcy here. I'm going to go with someone that I know over someone that I don't. Of course, Perez could surprise me. It'd be really awesome. I'll try to tune in on Friday night to UFC Fight Pass to catch this one. Moving along to Combate Americas 50 in Fresno, California. There is one ladies fight according to Tapology. Of course, their website's worthless for keeping up to date on what fights they have. But at strawweight, Carolyn Gallardo, 3-3, taking on Karina Herrera, 4-1. Looking at the stats, Gallardo coming off a loss 6 months ago to Melissa Martinez, who's competing for the belt next month. 3 wins before that. Herrera's coming off a win over Maria Paula Buzaglo in Combate about 11 months ago. A draw before that with Amanda Serrano. A loss before that to Jamie Navarra in Bellator. So, and that was 2 years ago. Wow. So, Gallardo, the more active, slightly more active fighter this year at least. Barely, but let's see. Herrera's the older fighter, 30 years to Gallardo's 23 years. Herrera will have a 1-inch height advantage on Gallardo, 5 feet 2 inches, 157 centimeters, to Gallardo's 5 feet 1 inch, 155 centimeters. And then their reach is virtually identical, 62.5 inches, 159 centimeters for Herrera, to Gallardo, 62 inches, 157 centimeters. So 2 centimeter difference. I don't really remember watching either of these two ladies fight. I might have. Unfortunately, Combate is now behind the Axis wall. Their English broadcasts are now on Axis TV, which my cable company just doesn't have, and Axis is just not available if your provider does not carry them. So I'm not making a pick on something I can't even watch. Which brings us along to Brave CF number 30. It's Brave Combat Federation. That's going to be in Hyderabad, India, Saturday morning. They have 2 ladies fights. Carolina Wojcik, 5-2, is taking on Maria Ribeiro, 5-2 at strawweight. Looking at the stats, both are coming off a loss. For Wojcik, it was preceded by 2 wins. For Ribeiro, it was preceded by a win, which was preceded by another loss. Ribeiro's the older fighter, 27 years, to Wojcik's 24 years. Ribeiro will be taller by 2 inches, 5 feet 4 inches, 163 centimeters, to Wojcik's 5 feet 2 inches, 157 centimeters. I don't have a reach available for Ribeiro, but Wojcik has a reach of 62.2 inches, 158 centimeters. I'm going to try to find a stream for this. We'll have to see. Also on that card, and also at strawweight, Semen Kamal Beek taking on Manjit Kolakar. Kolakar is, I believe, a 2-time Invicta veteran. Beek is 3-3. Kolakar is 11-3. Beek is coming off a win 8 months ago, preceded by 2 losses. Kolakar is coming off of 2 straight losses. One to Brianna Van Buren at Invicta Phoenix Series 1. That was 6 months ago. And then a year ago to Ksenia Lachkova at, looks like, wherever that was. Looks like Beek is the older fighter, 30 years to Kolakar's 28. They're the same height, 5 feet 2 inches, 157 centimeters. No reach available for Beek. Kolakar has a reach of 64 inches, 163 centimeters. So since I just said I won't make picks on fights I can't watch, I won't make picks on these two, but I did want to put it out there because it's 2 ladies' fights on the same card. And this Brave Combat Federation, they tend to have their events in interesting places, but they are putting on a lot of events, so I thought it was worth mentioning. Which brings us to Bellator London. The Bellator European Series on Saturday has 1 ladies' fight. Oh, 2 ladies' fights. Excuse me. All right, so first up, before I get to the one in the picture, is we have Charlotte McIntyre making her pro debut, taking on Josie Blaber. Don't have any stats for either of them. Blaber is 1-0. But moving on to the fight that is pictured at flyweight, Denise Kielholtz, 3-2, taking on Sabria Sengul, making her pro debut. both coming from kickboxing background. Sengul, they signed her to Bellator several years ago, and then she never ended up fighting for them. So now she's making her pro Bellator debut, surprisingly in MMA and not kickboxing. No stats available for Sengul other than age. She is 31 years to Kielholtz's 30 years. Kielholtz has a height of 5 feet 2 inches, 157 centimeters, a reach of 66 inches, 168 centimeters. So I've never actually watched any of Sengul's kickboxing fights. I know Kielholtz has the kickboxing and I think judo background. She's more experienced in MMA, so I'm going to go with Kielholtz there. Now, if it stays on the feet, I just don't know. If it goes to the ground, I'm going to put my faith in Kielholtz. She hasn't impressed me that much in her MMA career so far, but I have to go with her experience there. Which brings us along to the final event of this weekend. The Shooto 30th Anniversary Tour, 8th stop. We have the Super Atomweight Championship Tournament, first round. First up, we have Mina Kurobi versus Tanya Angerer. Kurobi's 13-5, Angerer's 7-4-1. I'm surprised by this matchup. It is the two most experienced fighters taking each other on. And probably the two most likely winners. So I'm surprised they didn't try to save this for later in the tournament. I'm going to go with the younger Angerer here. Kurobi has been struggling in some of her fights lately. So I'm going to go with Angerer, who's younger. Kurobi's like 40. Going to take me a minute to bring their stats up here. Angerer is 34, so she's definitely younger than Kurobi. So I'm going to go with Angerer to win this one. Next up is Yeji Lee, 3-6, taking on Takumi Umehara, 2-3. I don't know anything about Umehara. Yeji Lee has been struggling lately in her career. It seemed like she wasn't training as seriously and dedicating more time to teaching the young kids at her cousin's gym that she trains at. But I have noticed her posting more training videos on social media lately, so I'm hoping that'll mean a turnaround for her. I'm going with Yeji Lee in that one. And then finally, on that card, in the final first round bout, is Saori Oshima versus Zafana Ngaya. Both of these are making their pro debut. The only thing I know about them is that Ngaya trains with Team Lakai, which has a number of fighters in one championship. Other than that, I am not going to make a pick for this particular fight. And then there is a bye in the first round for the winner of, I forget what the tournament is called, but there's a tournament that finishes up that same day, run by Shooto, a 4-women tournament, like a round-robin format. And the winner of that gets a bye in the first round, and then they won't have to fight until the second round in January. All right, so that is the upcoming fights for this weekend. I didn't really come up with a good discussion topic for this weekend, so we'll be skipping that one. I was thinking about talking about, boxing and MMA and how it's constantly trying to mix, but then I realized everything I wrote down was just a copy of something that someone else had said previously, and I'm not going to, plagiarize someone, even if it was unintentional. So I'm just going to skip the discussion topic this weekend and work hard to come up with something a little better for next week. Anyway, in the meantime, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, whether it's the previous weekend's fights, the news and announcements, this weekend's fights. the rankings fuckery, whatever you want to talk about, hey, mention it in the comments down below. Of course, likes are always appreciated, and hey, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA Scene Now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. And don't forget to hit that bell for notifications. And we'll see you next time.